Awesome. You guys good? Okay. Welcome back, everyone, to the Cowboy Conversation with Swilling and Anderson. This is a biweekly town hall to provide students with information about ASUW and general communications from the ASUW president and vice president.
It is also a place for student feedback and concerns to be directly questioned to President Swilling and Vice President Anderson. Today, we actually have a special guest, so we will begin with having our special guest from ASUW Executive Branch, our Chief of Legislative Affairs, Catherine Carrier.
Hi.
So, Catherine, do you kind of want to talk very briefly about what First Year Senate is and just kind of about that?
Yeah, for sure. So First Year Senate is our student government and opportunity for first year students here at the university to get involved with ASUW. So their primary goal or job is to represent the first year students. And it kind of gives those first year students an opportunity to learn about our student government, how ASUW works, and gives them a good stepping off point for any future involvement with ASUW.
Awesome. And then who is eligible for First Year Senate?
So any first year student at the university is eligible for First Year Senate. So this can look like incoming freshmen. It can be transfer students. So basically, if this is your first year here at the university, you can apply and be in First Year Senate.
Awesome. So how does the First Year Senate work? Like, how is it kind of structured?
Yeah, so First Year Senate is kind of structured as a mini ASUW Senate. So they have regular weekly Senate meetings where they discuss legislation, pretty much talk about the same things that the full ASUW Senate is talking about. They also have little First Year Senate committees that kind of mimic and discuss the same topics that the full ASUW Senate committees have. So each first year senator serves and has the opportunity to chair one of those little first year Senate committees. And then they also have the opportunity to serve on full ASUW Senate committees as well.
Great. And then can you tell us a little bit about your personal experience with First Year Senate?
Yeah, so I was a first year senator last year. I was also the parliamentarian of the First Year Senate. So I guess I should have mentioned this earlier, but the First Year Senate has their own little First Year Senate officers, which consists of the presiding officer, parliamentarian, secretary, treasurer, and the steering liaison. So they're a little bit more of the leadership of the First Year Senate and get to take some more of those leader opportunities. So as the parliamentarian, I helped facilitate Robert's Rules of Order and parliamentary procedure. I served on the First Year Senate Steering Committee. So I helped read a lot of legislation and steer those pieces of legislation to the proper committees. I also served on the ASUW Elections Committee, along with the ASUW Advocacy, Diversity, and Policy Committee. So those are really good committees to help give me a good understanding and introduction to ASUW and the university and a lot of our policies and work that we do here. I also, during the first semester, I worked closely with the director of marketing at the time and a couple senators to help promote safe COVID guidelines. And then in more of the spring semester, I worked with a lot of full senators and a lot of other first year senators to write some legislation to increase the vote of First Year Senate from 1 to 3 in the full Senate. So that was really impactful. Yeah, I guess during my experience, I just gained a lot of understanding about ASUW, got involved with a lot of projects, made a lot of connections, and it was a really great stepping off point for me to take on this position as Chief of Legislative Affairs and just get more involved in ASUW in general.
That sounds like a very fun year last year. Moving on, how can people join First Year Senate if they're not already joined?
Yeah, so we still have applications open in a sense. We have rolling applications since the First Year Senate is not completely full yet. So if anyone is a first year student and interested in applying, they can go to the ASUW website, scroll down and click on programs and partners. Then there will be a First Year Senate link and it'll say join First Year Senate, which will take you to the application. You can email that to the first year Senate advisor, Aaliyah Denny, or drop it off at the office, email Vice President Anderson or myself too with that application.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining us. I know you didn't really get to talk at all about your role. Did you want to mention what the Chief of Legislative Affairs does?
Yeah, sure. So I'm basically the right-hand man to Vice President Anderson. We work and help run the legislative branch and the Senate. I'm also in charge of making our agendas, writing our minutes. I help senators write legislation. I review and edit legislation. I serve on the steering committee to help steer that legislation. Basically anything that kind of needs to be done in regards to legislation or the Senate, I am there to help out and do whatever is necessary.
Awesome.
She also runs, sorry to jump in, but she also runs a few special committees, namely a lot of the committees that give away scholarships. That's a really, really big thing we do. We give away almost $80,000 in scholarships. So that's a big task for the Chief of Legislative Affairs. And generally, you know, like the job description says, other tasks, other duties as assigned. We get a lot of first-time situations that come up, and Catherine and I have to work together to handle those how we see fit. So,
yeah.
Well, thank you for joining us, Catherine.
Thank you for having me.
You can stay on if you'd like, or you can leave.
I probably will. I want to hear your guys' conversation today.
Okay.
Yeah, thanks for coming. Awesome. So we're going to move on to some sort of talking points and questions for President Swilling and Vice President Anderson. As many students may have seen this week through email and on social media, there has been a student issue survey that went out. So I guess my question is, what is this student issue survey?
Yeah, thank you for that question, Hazel. So our student government has been working really hard to develop our student issues survey. Particular shout out to our Director of Governmental and Community Affairs, Allison Brown, who really put a lot of work into this. And the entire point is to get students' opinions on the issues facing us as a university. We are the student government, and it's our job to represent the students' opinions, but to do that, we have to know their opinions. So we thought this survey would be a really cool way of connecting with some of our constituents and getting their thoughts on some of the important issues that are facing us as a state and as a community. So it asks about a lot of different things. There are questions about COVID-19, about the restructuring of the university, about pursuing a Good Samaritan policy, which is where if you call, even if you're underage while intoxicated due to medical assistance, you will not be given an MIP or a UCA or anything like that. And then there are a ton of other questions as well that we ask about, just to get student opinion and know what students are really facing as issues. Coulter, did you want to elaborate on some of the incentives that we might be offering?
yes, we're offering gift cards, right? Is my current understanding. Students who fill that out, at the end, there is a survey you can fill out if you want to give us like your name and email. And then we will, of those who fill out the survey, which is at the end of the actual survey, we will randomly select a student to win that incentive. So if you are interested in winning, I think there's like AirPods, right? Oh gosh, yeah, we talked about gift cards. Are we doing any of the Hydro Flasks?
Yep.
Yep.
So all told, we're giving away over $500 in various gifts and prizes as part of our incentives to get students to take our survey. So really fortunate that we're able to offer some of those opportunities. Everyone should take it. All students are eligible. And if you take it, you just sign up and you are automatically entered into the survey after completing that second link at the end of the first survey.
Awesome. And I have had a couple of students ask me, just based on they got the email with the survey, two things, which is it anonymous? And the other is, do you have to answer all the questions? Can you answer both of those for me?
Yeah, of course. So first, it is completely anonymous, which is actually why we separated the two surveys. So the first part is anonymous, that has all the questions. And then the second part for the giveaway is not anonymous because we need to be able to know your name and your email in order to give you the prize. But two, you can absolutely answer only the questions that you want. None of them are required. So if there's anything you don't feel comfortable sharing or don't really think you have an informed opinion on, then you are more than welcome to skip it. We welcome hearing from you in any capacity that you feel comfortable.
Now, I know you kind of mentioned the purpose of the survey is to get the information. What does ASUW and everyone use this data that we collect for?
Of course. So the primary thing that we'll use it for is to really push for those issues that students think are important. We have a lot of contacts with the administration here at UW and even some connections with like city council and some of our elected officials, all of which we can use to sort of harness student opinion and show them the hard data that this is something that students care about. This is something that you need to address. This is something that is important. And that really helps us when we are pushing for these issues in the eyes of administration, because we now have data backing up our claims that students do in fact care about what is happening and care about this issue.
Awesome. Thank you guys so much for talking a little bit about that survey.
Great. So the next sort of topic for discussion is ASUW's power on campus. So our first question is, what type of power or control does ASUW have on campus?
Yeah, so ASUW has a very specific amount of power in some ways and a lot of soft power in other ways. So we have some hard power that we have direct influence over. First, we have a student fee that students who attend the University of Wyoming pay to ASUW. And with that fee, we support a budget of over $1 million, including a lot of really important and beneficial services and programs for students. For example, we have a student legal services attorney who's able to give advice or like legal advice to any student who is in need of that. And that is free to all students who pay the ASUW fee. There will never be a charge associated with that. We also give away over $120,000 to student organizations each and every year, $85,000 in scholarships, and a ton of other wonderful and amazing programs. So that's something we have direct influence over. We have a lot of budgetary options that we can use to like fund a project or allow for the expansion or a renovation of some existing property or land here at the University of Wyoming. So that's one area in which we have a very defined amount of influence. We can actually fund something, we can make something change by directly having policy over it. Second is sort of the more nebulous section. Obviously, we don't have the power to do everything. A lot of the university is either governed by the administration headed by the president, President Seidel, or the board of trustees. And we do have a lot of influence with them, but not power to just make them do anything that we want, obviously. So we have a monthly meeting with President Seidel, for example, and we also have a lot of other connections with other administrators in which we are invited to a lot of spaces where it's usually mostly administrators and ASUW is the only student representatives, and we can speak there about some of that important stuff. The president also has a seat on the board of trustees as an ex officio member, and that's a really powerful opportunity to be informed about what's going on at the university and to advocate for things that they think really need to be addressed in order to ensure that students have the best experience that they possibly can while at the university. One way in which we can really show our opinion formally is through the resolution process, where ASUW writes a resolution. Catherine, Coulter, do either of you want to share about the resolutions?
Sure, I can talk about resolutions. So there are two types of legislation in ASUW. There's a bill, which means we actually do something. We actually change something, or we spend money somewhere or something like that. Whereas a resolution is more of a statement that ASUW is making. We pass all kinds of resolutions. We pass resolutions on proposals for new degree programs. We'll pass a resolution either in support or in opposition to like a new degree program, or but basically anything like that, right? There are a huge, enormous variety of things that we could theoretically write a resolution on. But when we write a resolution, there's no tangible action that really is like mandated to come out of that. We're just stating this is what we support, and we can outline goals and other like tangible policy objectives too in a resolution, but that doesn't mean that ASUW is mandated to pursue them. And of course, as Hunter's already said, we can't tell another office on campus what to do, but we can pass resolutions and then send them to particular offices. And so that office is made aware that the student body is supporting a certain initiative or a budget realignment or something like that, right? It could be anything. But we want to make sure that they understand that yeah, we support that. So I think I covered it. But yeah, let me fix my monitors. They're all wonky.
While Coulter fixes his monitor, we can just say that there's a lot of important actions that have come out of resolutions. For example, Safe Ride was created because of a resolution. DW Food Share Pantry was the result of a resolution. And there's been a ton of other things as well, like new degree programs being created, and a lot of ways in which we can directly show student opinion and show that this is an issue that students care about. And that really can incentivize the board and the president to act on that. So that's ASUW's power in a nutshell. Some direct influence with our budget, with people we know and who work with us and for us, that we can get to have like an event organized, program funded or something like that. And then soft power through influencing others on campus to help bring light to an issue or address an issue.
All right, thank you guys on that. That's, I think, hopefully helpful for those who kind of ask questions about what we can do and what we do. So moving on, we're going to talk kind of about the COVID-19 update, mainly from the updates from the Board of Trustees last week. So what is the update on COVID from the meeting last week, Hunter?
Yeah, of course. So the board met last week and we discussed COVID quite a bit on both Thursday and Friday. In both the informational session of the board, which is when the board gets information, and in the work session of the board, which is when the board actually does a whole bunch of actions, votes on stuff, et cetera, et cetera. So first, we heard the COVID-19 update and the recommendations from the Presidential Advisory Committee on COVID-19. They basically surmised that the COVID situation in Albany County and at the University of Wyoming is not great, but it's okay. And they attribute that in part to the mask mandate that we currently have. The number of cases that we have is relatively low compared to the rest of the state of Wyoming and the rest of the country even, especially some of the hot spots that have broken out like Texas or Florida. And additionally, the number of students infected has so far been relatively minor and relatively low. So that is pointing to evidence that our current policies are more or less working. There's still some concerning thoughts. For example, the positivity rate of COVID-19 tests is higher than we would like it to be. It approached 2.89% the week before the board meeting, and 3% is sort of the threshold for alarm on that statistic. But a lot of the other statistics weren't quite as bad. So good, not great, was the general takeaway from how COVID-19 is doing. But based on that information, the board did decide on some concrete actions that they would pursue into the future. So first, we all know that the board was going to make a decision on whether or not the mask policy of required masks in public spaces if you're not socially distanced and in all high traffic areas, regardless of whether or not you're socially distanced, would be continuing. And they decided by a vote of 9-2 that it would continue for the foreseeable future. There's not an end date on it this time, like there was the last time they voted on it. This policy will continue until the board actually decides by a positive vote to end it. So it's not contingent on any further action by the board at the next meeting. The board won't be voting on this again until they vote to end it or substantially modify current policy, which is good because it provides a lot more stability for campus. We won't be wondering whether or not the board will decide to continue this policy or not continue this policy. So that was a good change in my opinion. Additionally, we discussed some of the efforts to increase the vaccination rate here at the University of Wyoming, with a special note to the fact that there are vaccine incentive programs all throughout Albany County. You can win $1,000 from the state, or I mean from the city of Laramie, just by being vaccinated. And in fact, the very first person to win that prize is a student at the University of Wyoming. So that was pretty cool to see. And then also we were notified that President Biden's vaccine mandate for businesses with over 100 employees will probably impact the University of Wyoming. And the board, specifically the Biennium Budget Committee, which is the committee in charge of the budget of the University of Wyoming, allocated $200,000 to be ready at a moment's notice to comply with that order. Obviously, the University of Wyoming is by law required to have this mandate in place if it is passed and upheld by the federal courts. This mandate, based on what we know so far, would not apply to all students, but it would apply to student employees, staff, and faculty. And that mandate basically says either you get vaccinated for COVID-19 or you test weekly. And that would be a required weekly test. So like we kind of had last semester. Obviously, I think getting vaccinated is way easier than having to trudge all the way down to, what even is it, like Crane or Hill Hall, So I would highly recommend that if you haven't been vaccinated and this ends up going into effect. But that might happen. It should be noted that the state of Wyoming, the Attorney General and the Governor's Office is challenging this law in court. But based on my understanding of the expectation, the members of the board and a lot of legal experts do not expect that will prevail. They expect that this law will go into effect based on, frankly, long-standing Supreme Court precedent. So it would be pretty shocking if the courts struck down this regulation, because it's fundamentally similar to a lot of others that have already been in place for a long time. So those are some of the takeaways that we have. Masks are continuing, and there may or may not be a required vaccine mandate or a weekly testing option here at the University of Wyoming if you work for the university. It would not apply to all students in general. So those
Awesome. Thank you for that update. Really fast, on the subject of ASUW's control that we were just talking about, Hunter, could you just talk a little bit about how your position plays a role in the Board of Trustees meetings and what that looks like?
Yeah, so my position is pretty unique, and honestly, it's a pretty cool responsibility and one I take very seriously, but I get to sit on the Board of Trustees as an ex officio member, which means I have full speaking and parliamentary rights, except for the right to vote. So I don't get a vote on the board, which means I get to hear all of the information and participate in all of the discussions, and I can even modify or amend actions or votes or other motions that have been proposed by the Board of Trustees. So I don't vote on those, but I am able to propose changes to them. I participated in the COVID-19 conversation, noting that it's really, really important for us to stay in person, that the absolute last thing students want is to go back online, and noting that I think students would be in support of anything that makes it so that we have a successful fall semester and don't have to go back online. Because I frankly told them, like, this is my 5th semester of school and only 2 of them have been in person. Well, 2.5. And I was not happy with that. So I told them that frankly. So that was pretty cool. And then I also sat on the Presidential Advisory Board for COVID-19, which came to the recommendations that the Board of Trustees more or less followed regarding COVID. And I was a voting member on that committee. So that was fun.
Awesome. Thank you so much for all that, Hunter. Next, we're going to move on to the Senate update. Coulter, you want to take that?
Sorry. Yes, I can take the reins on this one. So speaking of resolutions, we had a Senate resolution up for debate on Tuesday night. We had some really spirited debate on this one, and it was super, super fun to moderate. I had a great time. With Senate resolution number 2. Excuse me. That was funky. Senate resolution number 2754. The Anti-Hazing Act of 2021. After some spirited debate, that passed 19-1. So that was awesome to see. And then we had another piece of legislation, Senate Bill number 2755, allocations and funding for the Career Fostership Act. And this bill actually failed in committee. First one we've seen this year. If committees get referred legislation and they make recommendations on that legislation, and if a piece of legislation doesn't receive any do pass recommendations, then it just fails. This one received 3 do not pass recommendations. So there you go. As well, we had the opportunity to welcome some new senators. We got to fill some vacancies. So that's super awesome considering we're pretty shorthanded right now. And then we had a quick budget realignment, but that got tabled until the coming week. So I will talk more about that next time. But yeah. Other than that, yeah, I think that about wraps it up. Always nice to welcome new senators. So in the College of Business, feel free to welcome Sabrina Considine, and in the College of Health Sciences, Ashley Snyder, to their Senate seats if you're in those colleges and happen to be watching. So yeah, thanks, Casey.
Really fast, Coulter, with that said, are there any other Senate vacancies that are still up?
Yes, we still have vacancies in Arts and Sciences, Agriculture and Natural Resources, School of Energy Resources, and Academic Affairs. Oh, and there's one other.
I believe it's engineering.
Yes, engineering. That's correct. We have one in engineering currently. So we have a few, we've been conducting interviews for a few of those positions, but you're still welcome to apply. And that'll put you next on the list, basically, for an interview, whatever it might be. So yeah, if you're in any of those colleges or know someone in one of those colleges that you think would be good for ASUW, would be a good representative of the student body, send them my way. ASUWVP@uwio.edu. Happy to talk with anybody. Yeah, does that wrap it up? Is that everything?
Yeah, I think so. Thank you.
Okay, no, thank you.
Great. So now it's time. We're going to talk about some upcoming events going on campus. I want to remind people that there are pretty much events going on at all times on campus. These are just some interesting ones that we pulled that we thought students would be interested in. So the first one is Hamid Khan, A Muslim's Journey from Wyoming to Afghanistan and Beyond. And this is happening Wednesday, September 29th at 4:30 p.m.
Yeah. Another event is the Democracy Laboratory launch event. It's going to be on Zoom. It is Tuesday, October 5th at 5:30, and it's going to be an online conversation with Dr. Danielle Allen.
And then the last event is Wyoming Cybersecurity Conference. This is happening on October 6th and 6th through 8th, starting at 8 a.m. each day, and it is free to Wyoming students and educators.
And we chose, these ones are just a couple of the events going on. You can always check out more of the events happening around campus at the link there on the bottom, uwio.edu/uw/calendar. So next, we're going to move on to the open forum for student questions and concerns that we've gotten and any that are on that we received through Zoom or Facebook Live.
Most of our comments this week have been from a comment box. We've been tabling upstairs for a couple different reasons. So if you're walking through the Union, we have some breezeway tabling, so you could stop by. I know we've been doing some free donuts, and you can also put in some comments for our next town hall. One of the comments that we got is get rid of the mask mandate.
Moving on from that, because since we've already talked about the masks and everything, another one just said pass the anti-hazing res.
Well, hold on. I'd like to touch on the mask mandate first.
Yeah, sure.
I think that's important. The first thing I'll say, and correct me if I'm wrong, but our student issues survey asks students if they are in favor of a mask mandate. And a majority of students have said that they are in favor of a mask mandate. So when it comes to that, we do try to represent student opinion as accurately as possible. Hunter, if you have those specific numbers, I think those would be nice, but
yeah, so we have over 2,000 responses so far, which is a substantial portion of our student population. And so far, about almost exactly 50% of students say they are fully in support of the mask mandate, and 20% say they are somewhat in support of the mask mandate. Only 30% say they are actually opposed to the mask mandate. So we are a representative government, and we believe we are representing student thoughts by saying that the mask mandate should continue.
And further, I will point out that the vote on the Board of Trustees was 9-2. The Board of Trustees is the end all be all. And as we discussed earlier, while we can give student opinion and try to influence their decision, they are the decision makers at the end of the day. So when it comes to that, sorry, folks, but it sounds like for now, that's sticking around. As for the anti-hazing resolution, as we already talked about, this did pass 19-1. So we're really excited that that was able to pass and hopeful that we can lobby the Wyoming legislature for some statewide anti-hazing legislation later this year, or early next year, actually, not this year.
Awesome, thank you. And kind of along that same lines of talking about the mask mandate, another anonymous comment that we got is, when do masks go away?
Yep, so we can talk about that a little bit again. There are two ways that masks could go away. So one, we hit the goals outlined by the Presidential Advisory Committee Board, which says that if 70% of Albany County residents and 75% of students are vaccinated, and Laramie has been in the low or medium low transmission levels for a period of 2 weeks or more, masks will go away. Or we wait until the university administration comes to the board and formally recommends that they take away the mask policy. We don't know when either of those will occur. The best thing you could do to end the mask mandate would be to get vaccinated and to convince all of your friends to get vaccinated.
No pressure.
I think we're the ones who froze.
Those are the facts. So
Do we
either
have-
way, do we have anything else? Unless we want to talk more about that. Oh, I think Casey
you're
and Hazel are frozen. Well, I have the document in front of me, so we can just keep going.
Yeah, it's okay. We lost our hosts, but
We lost our host. We're
Free
taking
reign.
over. We're usurping this event. The next comment from Open Forum was, please ask admin for more bike racks near different buildings. Well, first of all, anonymous student. Oh, they're gone for sure now. Oh, you're the host now, Catherine. Oh, we're still live on Facebook, but we're not recording. Okay, good enough for me.
Do we need to be recording?
no,
Yeah, go, hit it, Catherine. Hit the record button. Okay, now we're going.
Okay.
Well, yeah, we can certainly advocate for more bike racks. However, oh, here comes Casey. He's back. He has returned. I would say, though, the best way to get more bike racks on campus is to go through ASUW. We built a bike rack last year. So if you want to submit a special projects request, those are due October 20th. That's a great way to get a bike rack around campus. In terms of the university putting new bike racks in, as many of you may or may not know, probably most of you don't know, but the university is undergoing significant budget cuts, almost over $13 million. And so while we can certainly advocate for that, it would be my guess that they would not be super receptive to that idea. But Hunter?
yeah, I would say the same. If there's any particular places you wanted to see a bike rack, please reach out to Culture RI and we could help you with that. We have certain amounts of funds and endowments that can be used for facilities projects, including special projects like Coulter mentioned earlier, and we'd be more than happy to have that conversation.
Awesome. Well, apologies for the technical difficulties. I did have a quick question for Hunter. You'd mentioned about masks going away and vaccine rates. Do you have statistics on what the vaccine rates are right now for either Albany County or for UW?
Yeah, I do. So I will note that Albany County has the second highest vaccination rate in the state of Wyoming, of about 53% of adults fully vaccinated. However, that is actually still extremely bad compared to the rest of the nation. For example, California as a state is approaching like 80% vaccination rates. In Vermont, they're approaching 85, 88. So we need to just get better. This 53% is not nearly enough, even though we're the second best in the entire state. I will note that the vaccination rate for students varies a lot depending on if you are asking about official reporting rate or if you're asking about surveys that have been conducted. So the official reporting rate indicates that about 41% of students are vaccinated, while the survey that they did back at the beginning of the year of all about 9,000 people who submitted to that mandatory COVID-19 testing indicated that there was about a 66% vaccination rate. We also asked this on our survey, specifically noting that was anonymous in that question, and we got the response of about a 68% vaccination rate. So my guess is that it's somewhere between those two numbers. So I would say it's about 60 to 64%, which is, pretty good. We're actually higher than the county average, which is what I would expect, honestly, but we are still not nearly good enough. Again, we need like 80 to 90% to end this thing.
Awesome. Well, that's all the comments from the comment box that we had while tabling, and then we didn't have any comments submitted through Instagram or the forum. And I do not believe we have any on Facebook. So moving on, we'll just go to say that the next Town Hall Cowboy Conversation will be October 7th from 9:30 to 10:30 as well. And if you want to be involved, always submit the question. You can submit a question through the link in our bio on Instagram, or the day before the town hall, we will post a Instagram story where you can comment a question as well.
That's my birthday. I better have cake.
Oh, we'll sing you happy birthday over Zoom. Make you really uncomfortable.
Well, thank you everyone for watching and listening. See you guys next time.
Oh, Coulter's gone.
Yeah, Colton.